Hello, and welcome to your astrological forecast for the month of April 2022. This month, we do have a few planets changing signs, ingressing into new signs. We have Mercury is just flying right now. It will start out the month in Aries, it will go through Taurus, and it will actually enter Gemini before the end of the month. And so pretty crazy. Mercury's traveling so fast right now. Our thoughts are traveling really quickly. We're learning new things happening on an intellectual level. And Mercury will actually go retrograde in Gemini next month. So that's definitely something to look out for. Even by the end of April here, we'll have Mercury entering its pre-shadow. So I'll go over that more in just a moment. We also have Sun, of course, going from Aries to Taurus as it always does this time of year. So happy birthday, Taurus is coming up here. And then we've got Venus changing signs from Aquarius to Pisces. Now, I think this is really beautiful because Venus is, of course, exalted in Pisces. And we already have the Sun exalted in Aries. So we'll have both of these kind of inner planets, so to speak, exalted for a couple weeks together. So that'll be really, really beautiful having these two benefics, the Sun and Venus, each exalted in Aries and Pisces respectively. So that'll be really, really nice. We can have some more easy themes here. We're feeling kind of strong, feeling ourselves, feeling like things are easy to understand to some extent in our personal lives. So that's definitely something we can embrace. And then other than these ingresses, we also, let's see here, we also have a major aspect. So that's Jupiter conjoining Neptune. Whenever we have a conjunction between outer planets, it is a big deal. It is generally speaking, very rare. The last time we had Jupiter crossing over Neptune was in 2009, I believe. So this only happens every 13 years. Definitely a lot of symbolism there and some pretty impactful stuff that I'll go over here. And then lastly, and this actually may be the most important thing, we are entering eclipse season this month. So we'll have the first eclipse season of the year starting this month, and we're having the first eclipse of the eclipse season this month as well at the end of the month. So I'll go over that here too. So a lot of exciting stuff. Yeah, let's get into it. I'll just kind of rattle off some of the more major highlights of this month here, so you can kind of look out for these dates, I guess. The first one is on the very first of the month, April 1st. We have a new moon in Aries at, I believe it's 11 degrees Aries, and it's conjunct Chiron pretty tightly, and then conjunct Mercury a little bit less tightly. Now, I did cover this in my weekly forecast, so you can go there for more information. I did go pretty in depth there into the new moon, so I will put the link for that video in the description. However, just generally speaking, this is, a pretty potent new moon with these conjunctions. We have that really strong beginning, this strong burst of Aries energy. So really pushing us to initiate, to take action and make change, to begin new projects, new, I don't know, relationships, new anything really. Aries likes to start things. It likes to kind of bring out that impulsiveness and that spontaneity. So that's what this new moon is really bringing, especially for the rest of this month as we experience that lunar cycle that starts with Aries. But with that Chiron focus, the Chiron conjunction with the new moon, there's this kind of like therapeutic quality to it. So there's this focus on making peace with our past and also, I think, bringing a level of transparency to our past wounds or traumas. Where has our path kind of led us? What are kind of the maybe more hard things or the traumas that we've endured? And we need to make peace with those. We need to have strong relationships with ourselves, and also communicate these things and be transparent about them. That's what this new moon is kind of pushing us to do, I think. So a lot of power there, very strong, for sure. Okay, let's go forward to April 5th, and I will have to just bear with me here. PlanetWatcher.com is still down. So I'm using this site, which is also really good. I'm very grateful for it, but it just takes me a little bit longer. Okay, so April 5th, we have Venus entering Pisces. So again, that's really beautiful. Venus is exalted in Pisces. Venus, of course, explores our desire, our attraction. What do we desire, and also how are we desirable? And the desire and the attraction works both ways with Venus. And in Pisces, Pisces is about kind of universal attraction, universal desire, universal beauty. So, for instance, people that have Venus in Pisces are very charismatic. They're almost kind of in love with everyone. They're naturally flirtatious. So you get those kind of Venusian themes emerging with this placement here. So this is really beautiful. I think maybe we can all be a little bit more pleasant to one another, hopefully. We can all be just a tiny bit more graceful in our mannerisms with one another while we have Venus transiting through Pisces. So I think that's definitely something really beautiful. And again, like I touched on in the beginning of this video, having the Sun, which is a benefic, it's a pretty easy energy to work with. That's exalted in Aries. Venus is a benefic. It's also, an energy of abundance and general things that are pleasant to us. That's exalted in Pisces. So all in all, we're naturally able to attract to ourselves what we desire. And I think the law of attraction is even maybe more so important here, because as long as you're focusing on what you want, you're extra able to achieve it now with these benefics both exalted. So that's really powerful, really beautiful, and these are some of the easier energies to work with. So we can really appreciate these for these couple weeks that we have both of these exalted here. April 9th, we have it's just a first quarter moon. I wouldn't typically mention first quarter moons in a monthly forecast like this, but this one is very potent. It's it's a quarter moon that I always look out for, that I've been watching, that I've been looking out for each year for many years now, because it has a propensity to be very volatile. So there's a lot of chaos in this day on this day. There's also a lot of opportunities to make change, so for sudden growth. So that's kind of the more positive side of it, I guess. First quarter moons in general are the most volatile part of the lunar cycle, I would say. I would say even more so than the full moon. The full moon, of course, is the more famous part of the lunar cycle, but the first quarter moon is the most action oriented. And under the first quarter moon, we are the most restless. We're restless when we're uncomfortable. We're stressed at times. But again, the purpose of these kind of more uncomfortable feelings are to motivate us to make change, to take action. So yeah, so generally, these are kind of like chaotic hiccups or bumps on the road that we experience. However, this one in particular is very volatile, and the reason why is because the moon is in domicile in Cancer, so it's very strong there. We experience a lot of strong yin or feminine energy, so strong intuition, strong emotion. We're extra, aware of how we feel with moon in Cancer. But it's making this clash, this harsh aspect, this square aspect to the sun. Sun, again, is exalted in Aries, so sun is very strong there. It's a lot more masculine, more yang oriented, so more outgoing, more impulsive, more spontaneous. So these are both very strong energies, but they're clashing together. Now, typically when we have planets clashing, there's one that is more dominant, I would say, so we can kind of just go to that side. With this, it doesn't really work like that. Sun is exalted, moon's in domicile. Both are very strong, both are clashing. There's no clear like winner of this fight, so to speak. So there's this really intense clashing, and then you also have fire mixing with water, which creates steam, it creates chaos, it muddles things. It's hard to see when everything is kind of steamy and there's so much going on. So yeah, so on the more like negative side, I guess you could say, this looks very dysfunctional, very chaotic. There can be a lot of accidents. I would definitely try to be careful, be safe. Don't take any risks. Maybe stay home if you can. However, on the more positive side, I guess, this is pushing us to make change. So, for instance, if you're kind of stuck in a rut and you've been a little bit complacent, this might be a great aspect for like shaking you out of that and like getting you to take action, or getting you some kind of new perspective, some kind of fresh insight, or motivation, inspiration, something like that. Um, you know, so in short, this is really great for pushing us to take action or to shake us up. But yeah, definitely just something to look out for. One of the more eventful days of the entire year, I would say, without fail. April 10th, we have Mercury entering Taurus. So again, Mercury's just flying through. It won't be in Taurus for very long, but we can enjoy Mercury in Taurus. Now, I think Mercury in Taurus, it does do very well. So Mercury, of course, rules our intellect and our communication. And Taurus is a sign which is very grounded. It's very practical. And the reason why it's so practical, pragmatic, is because it focuses on what it can sense, with its kind of more physical senses. So Taurus as a sign is not one to get caught up in, really lofty, crazy ideas or emotions, things that are not worth its time. Taurus has a bit of a healthy skepticism. So as Mercury goes through there, ruling our intellect and communication, this works pretty well. We can we can have that healthy skepticism. We can focus on things that are truly worthwhile and not get, lost in ungrounded emotions or ideas. But also, Taurus is ruled by a benefic. Taurus is ruled by Venus, so it has that kind of sweet, gentle side to it. And so, even in our communications, there can be some kind of something pleasant about the way we communicate. So we can have maybe more enjoyable conversations as well. So thoughts and communications that are very grounded, very practical, but also kind of enjoyable. Something pleasant about Mercury and Taurus. So that's definitely something more fun I think we can experience as well here. Going forward to April 12th, we have Jupiter conjoining Neptune at 23 degrees Pisces. And it's a big deal because conjunctions are beginnings. Just like the new moon is a conjunction with the moon conjoining the sun, that's a new beginning. Any conjunction is a new beginning. So Jupiter conjoining Neptune, it's a new beginning, and it's a new beginning of a long cycle, of a 13-year cycle. 13-year chapter, if you will. Jupiter conjoining Neptune is a big deal. These are two outer planets, so it's very rare that they conjoin one another since they're, more slow moving. But also, Jupiter and Neptune are both at home in Pisces. Both of them work with many of the same themes and energies that Pisces does. So that would be, well, on the one hand, it would be fantasy. So Jupiter, Neptune, Pisces, these are all energies that work with like inspiration and creativity, fantasy, getting lost in other worlds, kind of getting lost in escapism and getting lost in, dreams or spirituality. And what's interesting is it's not only fantasy that these energies work with, but it's also very abstract concepts. So concepts of, where are we in the universe? Uh, what is the true nature of humankind, or more abstract philosophical questions such as those. And with Jupiter conjoining Neptune, it shows a new beginning, and I think most importantly, it shows a huge opportunity for grounding in new energies from the cosmos, or from the upper echelons of spirituality, or whatever you believe in. There's new energies, new ideas coming, new inspiration coming, and we can have basically a much needed resurgence of new energy in our music, in our art, in our spirituality. So I would expect new waves of consciousness. So maybe people kind of waking up more, becoming more spiritual. Maybe new waves of trends in music or art, spirituality, that type of thing. And then Neptune in Pisces too, it does have a lot to do with us exploring different ideologies or different ways of living, ways of being. So there can be new waves, new resurgence of energies and ideas in those areas as well during and following this conjunction. So yeah, this looks really beautiful. Both energies are so at home here. It looks mostly positive, I would say, very inspirational and uplifting. So yeah, definitely something to look forward here. Going forward to April 14th, we have Mars entering Pisces. On the one hand, this is dysfunctional. Mars is technically not in detriment or in fall in Pisces, but it is dysfunctional, I would say, because Mars it typically rules the ego and individuality, but Pisces usually deals with not so much individuality, it deals with, spirituality, consciousness, collective consciousness, things like that. So Mars can be kind of confused in Pisces. The other thing is that Mars is how we fight for things. What do we fight for? What do we fight against? How do we defend ourselves? What are we competitive about or passionate about? What are we ambitious about? And in Pisces, Pisces is not the most focused sign. It's very nuanced. Pisces is not black and white. It more deals with many different shades of gray. And with Pisces, everything is fluid. Everything is kind of changing all the time. So having, your ambitions and what you fight for, your passions be constantly changing and fluid and not clearly defined, it can be very confusing. It can be confusing to know, what are we fighting for? What are we fighting against? It's not very clear with Mars and Pisces. However, there is an opportunity to fight for spiritual ideals, since Pisces deals with spirituality so much. Pisces also deals with like creativity and art, so we could maybe be passionate about those types of topics. And the other thing that I think is beautiful, Venus and Mars are still very close. They, of course, are not conjunct anymore like they were earlier this year, but they're still pretty close. And having both Venus and Mars, they're both kind of two sides of the same coin in a way, dealing with attraction and desire. Having them both be in Pisces, I think it shows that collectively we are desiring spirituality, we're desiring connection, all those kind of Piscean themes. So I think that is really beautiful, and it is potentially indicative of people wanting to wake up more, wanting to become more conscious, more spiritual. So I think that is really beautiful for sure, having both Mars and Venus in Pisces. Next, on April 16th, we have a full moon in Libra. It'll be 26 degrees Libra here. I think we're all generally aware that, full moons, there's more activity. People are generally awake later at night, more active, and it can be dysfunctional. There can be this clashing or culminating. Some full moons more than others. This full moon in particular, it's in Libra. Now, I actually really love this. The sun is exalted in Aries, so it's very strong, like we've talked about. The moon is pretty strong in Libra too. It's not technically in domicile or exalted, but moon fits very well with Libra. Yes, they are clashing with this full moon. However, unlike the first quarter moon, there is a little bit more room for compromise with this full moon. Just because whenever you have a full moon, you have the moon opposing the sun, they are on the same axis. So sun is in Aries, moon is in Libra. Both Aries and Libra are like two sides of the same coin in a way here. They both explore opposing yet complementary themes. So for instance, Aries explores the self-expression. Libra explores the other people. How do you relate to others, diplomacy, that type of thing. And if you're exploring self-expression, you also must be exploring diplomacy and awareness of other people as well to some extent. So that's where they're two sides of the same coin. With this full moon in Libra, I would say for full moons that are in yang signs like this, so in this case the moon in air with the sun in fire, both are yang, both are more kind of dominant, expressive, outgoing. So this is one of the more fun, kind of active full moons. All full moons are, very active, but this one in particular does support us being, maybe active and spontaneous. And another thing too, with both Aries and Libra exploring self-expression and working with other people, both of these signs like to be social. They like to be socially active, and so I think this aspect looks really excellent for a party type of energy. Full moons kind of are that way anyway, but especially in the sign of Libra, which is all about, dealing with other people. Libra likes to be with other people to bounce its energies and ideas off of. And then when you mix in this energetic self-expression of Aries, it does look like a fun aspect. And both Sun and Aries and Moon in Libra, they're both exploring their own desires, but with or through other people, sort of. So in short, to me, this looks like a good party energy. Now, there is one aspect that I need to mention. So the full moon is squaring Pluto. In other words, Pluto is actually making a T-square with the sun and the moon on this day here. Pluto at 28 degrees Capricorn. So this does show a clash, especially between ourselves and our authority figures. So this could be clashes with the government, like protests, people being a little bit rebellious. And I still stand by everything I said about this being a more harmonious kind of party energy. I think it's a more fun-loving type of vibe and energy. There is that potential as well for clashes with our authority figures. Going forward to April 19th, Sun enters Taurus as it typically does this time of year. um, and this is really beautiful. So really all through spring in the northern hemisphere, the sun is very strong in all these signs because we have more light than darkness and we have increasing light each day. So the sun's energies are dominant and they're also increasingly strong as well all through spring. So Taurus, sun really does well in Aries, Taurus, and Gemini. I think in Taurus, of course, it can be a little bit more grounded. Taurus, like Aries, explores our desires, but in a way that's more grounded and more focused on the long term. And in Taurus, we're kind of focusing on how do we support ourselves. So what do we desire in terms of things that support us? So that's where you do get a lot of like financial focus, but also on our relationships. Our relationships kind of support ourselves as well. So what do we desire in terms of money and other people? That's generally where these kind of Venus-ruled signs go to is love and money. So yeah, these are more pleasant things to kind of focus on, focusing on our desires, maybe being a little bit more grounded than the Sun and Aries transit. So happy birthday, Taurus is definitely one of the more easy energies to experience, generally speaking, for us as a whole here. April 25th, we have Mercury. Mercury's at 25 degrees Taurus, and it will actually already enter its pre-shadow on this day on April 25th here. So, in other words, next month, once Mercury goes retrograde, it will retrograde back. It will be in Gemini by then, but it will retrograde backward, and it will reach 25 degrees Taurus. That's where it will eventually stop and then go forward, if that makes sense. So, a simpler way of saying it would be this is the first day where Mercury is in the area that it will eventually retrograde back over. Okay? So what this means pretty much is that Mercury's traveling so fast, we're not really integrating everything. There's a lot, there's so much new activity happening. Just we're in uncharted territory. We're not fully integrating everything. We're not fully understanding the ramifications of what's happening to us and what we're experiencing. And we're not truly meant to. So if you do feel a little bit confused at this time, I would almost say that's good because at least you're aware of it. I don't think we're always fully meant to understand everything right away, especially during times like these where Mercury is in pre-shadow. So basically, we're not totally understanding everything, but we'll have an opportunity to go back and experience what's happening now in a more thorough way once Mercury goes retrograde next month. April 29th, Mercury enters Gemini already. So that's pretty crazy. And this of course is a energy that's very easy for us to experience. Mercury is in domicile in Gemini, because Gemini, deals with a lot of the same themes that Mercury does. Gemini likes to think very quickly, speak quickly. It likes to get lots of tidbits of different information from different sources and interactions with different kinds of people, and then kind of integrate that information and then share it with other people. So, yeah, Mercury is very at home in Gemini, in this kind of intellectual, kind of brainy sign of Gemini. So as we experience Mercury in Gemini, we do have maybe increased awareness in a more kind of cerebral way. So we are extra keen with our observations and extra able to speak clearly, to learn and to also maybe teach or share our information in an effective way. So that's definitely something to look forward to, definitely great. And really, this is beautiful. We have so many planets in domicile or exalted with Mercury in domicile in Gemini. Sun is now in Taurus, but we've still got Venus exalted in Pisces. And then some of these outer planets, Saturn, Jupiter, and Neptune, are all in domicile as well. So yeah, generally speaking, we feel natural right now. We feel kind of normal, or as much as we ever do, I guess. We feel normal. We feel like things are relatively simple in our personal lives, I guess. I know, and we're in a much larger time of dysfunction, of confusion, but on a more short-term level, this is a relative time of kind of peace and understanding, if that makes sense. So now we do have Mercury, in its pre-shadow, so we're not fully grasping everything there. But we'll go over all that once we have the Mercury retrograde in Gemini. And then the last aspect I will rattle off here is April 30th. We have a partial new moon solar eclipse at 10 degrees Taurus. What's interesting is that it's very close to Uranus, so having a new moon close to Uranus in Taurus really shows a strong potential for sudden, volatile, unpredicted shifts and changes in terms of our economy, our finances, and this applies, not only collectively but also personally as well. We can have, sudden changes with how do we support ourselves? What do we value? What are our values? What commodities are valued or not valued? There can be huge shifts there. Okay, and this is really just one breaking point that is part of a larger shift. We're in the middle of this huge shift economically, and within this huge shift that we're experiencing, that's about 8 years in length, we're pretty much in the midst of it now. And during this 8 years, there are certain points, such as this new moon eclipse, that the shifts really occur, that we get these breaking points here. We have another one I just want to mention in November that looks really, really intense. So there's definitely more to come, more changes here in this area. But yeah, this is something to look out for. I would expect economic volatility on this day here. And of course, this is the first eclipse of the eclipse season as well. Now, this eclipse season that we're experiencing, during Taurus and maybe Gemini season as well, this is generally speaking the relatively easier eclipse season that we'll have this year. The one we'll experience in November in Scorpio season will be more challenging. The reason being because the sun is close to the north node for this eclipse season, and the north node is generally more positive, more easy to work with. The south node is generally more challenging. So with as we enter eclipse season, there is potential for sudden shifts, a lot of unpredictability, really karmic things happening though. So karmic twists and events in our personal lives and as a collective, especially if you have any major placements in Taurus or the beginning of Gemini. You can experience some dramatic life changes right now, and of course the nature of that will just depend on the intricacies of your chart. But for all of us, we can expect major shifts in terms of our finances, our economy, and how we support ourselves. And that's what I have for you for this month. So thank you for watching. I hope this helps you. Hope this gives you some insight. And stay tuned. Next month, there's a lot of interesting stuff happening. Then we've got the Mercury retrograde and a whole list of other things happening as well. So we're in the middle of this very, very crazy time. I think we're all aware of that. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.